Welcome here to a very special Superpowered Pop as we step here into 2022, the early part of 2022. Superpowered Pop is something that's been around for years and it has been reimagined. I don't want to say reimagined, it's been invigorated with some amazing additional talent. And Ross Turetsky has joined the family, and we have done our first broadcast, which was about how the Netflix Disney Plus relationship of the shows transitioning was something that I saw a couple of years in advance and really the creation of Disney Plus, and that Marvel has been setting up the Marvel Knights as well as the Midnight Suns, and the darker side of Marvel has been set up for years. So now with Moon Knight and all these other pieces coming in, Morbius and whatnot, and Blade, there's already been a road to that. So make sure you go back and check out that show on our Superpowered Pop platforms. And you can get that show by going to @SuperpoweredPop on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, as well as our website, superpoweredpop.com. With that being said, joining me picture in picture for the first time ever is another addition to our Superpowered Pop family. As we have evolved and grown, we now have contributors that will be with us every single month. So along with Ross Turetsky and myself, Dan Tortora, I am very proud to bring to you Larissa Fitzgibbons. Larissa, how are we doing?
Good. How are you?
Very good. And I am ecstatic about Superpowered Pop. You know, obviously the gears here, we got to send you some to make sure that you're well stocked with what you need. But I am very, very much looking forward to this. I know that you and I have spoken about Marvel, and we shared during your graduation, we shared the Edith glasses. So
Right.
had the opportunity to do that. So for the people that don't know here, as we bring you in for the first time ever to Superpowered Pop, what is your favorite, and where do you really feel like you're totally immersed? Like, I know, but for them to know, just what about this world of entertainment you're really excited about and what you're looking forward to talking about?
I'm just excited to see how Marvel is going to grow. I mean, I first started off with Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies, and then I started to grow into. I started this when I was in fifth or sixth grade. Then I knew Andrew's Spider-Man movies, and then I grew into the whole other Marvel movies, and it just like that's what sparked my interest. And so I guess my favorite character would be Spider-Man, just because I grew into that. That's how I got into Marvel. So
And you say that, which, for me is an easy second. I grew up on Spider-Man, Superman, and Batman. And Spider-Man was always my favorite character, always the character that I was most drawn to, the character I wanted to be. And in that respect, Venom is my favorite hero sometimes, anti-hero villain other times, but Spider-Man and Venom by far. So you and I mean, there is a correct answer to who the favorite of Marvel is, and you gave the correct answer. So as we spend this first episode together speaking on the evolution of Spider-Man, going back to 2002 and Tobey Maguire bringing him to life. Now, this had happened in the past. They had tried things. There's a Spider-Man movie of him, like, guy wearing pajamas essentially, and all these things they did before graphics and the evolution of everything we can do now in CGI. In 2002, Spider-Man came to life. And I remember going in a theater, sitting at Carousel at the time, very close to the screen, and being mesmerized, just blown away by the fact that my favorite character had come to life, and terrified still to this day, 20 years later, of Willem Dafoe's Green Goblin. When you saw Spider-Man come to life in 2002, what was your reaction knowing that he was also your favorite and is also your favorite character?
Well, I'd never really gotten into the comics. I just watched the movies. And I saw the movie, like I said, it was fifth grade for me, so it was way after 2002. I mean, I'm still scared of Green Goblin too, especially. But yeah, I mean, it's just really interesting to see like the different like how it grew into different Spider-Mans, like Tobey, Andrew, and Tom. It's just like the differences between them. It's very interesting. And like, I don't know, I just really enjoy the differences too. I don't like, I don't know. I don't know how to explain it.
Well, with Tobey Maguire being for the sake of what we know now with the Marvel Cinematic Universe and Sony's Spider-Man universe colliding, is that Tobey Maguire was the beginning of this. And his Spider-Man, I believe, when you go back to the movie that was made in 2002, the Green Goblin, played by Willem Dafoe, you look at 2002 and you look at where we are now at the end of 2021. So almost 20 years later, Willem Dafoe reprises his role as the Green Goblin. And you've seen both movies. I've seen both movies. From Spider-Man 1 with Tobey Maguire and Spider-Man No Way Home, a.k.a. Spider-Man 3 for the standalone for Tom Holland. In this 2 decades of time, those two Willem Dafoe moments, he's just as scary 20 years ago as he was now. Do you agree or disagree?
Oh, I 100% agree. I saw no change. Like it was the same thing.
And seeing his more true to the comic book, as he was trying to pretend like he was homeless. So you see like his just torn rags of a green costume, and then the purple, and then him having that hood, which really made him into what we know as the Green Goblin in the comic books. What he did in that was a reminder that his Goblin serum, which was essentially like the super soldier serum in and of itself, to see him fight with Tom Holland's Peter Parker. And I mean, he's just throwing him up and down the hallway, through the wall, and then to see him hit him and they go down a floor, and then he hits them harder and they just go through floors. It was a reminder that the Green Goblin is an extremely, extremely strong character, which I think some people like myself forgot about the fact that, you see Willem Dafoe and you say, okay, he's not a big dude, but he has the power to pack a punch.
Right. I agree. It's crazy.
What did you think about that fight scene?
It was just seeing like the two, like the first villain of the first Spider-Man movies to like the last Spider-Man so far, like the most recent Spider-Man. It's just so interesting to see them collide and just see like, I don't know. It was just really interesting to see the difference between the two, and just nothing changed between like just Green Goblin being very strong.
Seeing that Willem Dafoe's Green Goblin tried to kill Tobey Maguire's Aunt May and failed, and then succeeded in killing Tom Holland's Aunt May. What did that do for you, knowing that he essentially finished the job?
I actually totally forgot about that. So now that I think about it, like that's crazy. Like maybe I didn't even think about that. That's, I don't know. I'm kind of lost right now.
Well, I mean, you see you see what started. I mean, essentially, there's 3 Spider-Men, and Willem Dafoe's Norman Osborn, aka the Green Goblin. What he did to 2 out of 3 of them, like he never fought with Andrew Garfield in that way, one-on-one, but to fight with 2 of the 3 that way, and to see that he almost killed Tobey Maguire, he almost killed Tom Holland, but you see how the whole time in No Way Home, Willem he knows where Aunt May is. And when he throws the pumpkin bomb, he kind of looks at her beforehand and throws it. And this whole time of saying, like, I'm going to get you. I think if you go back and you watch it, it looked like he didn't want to kill Peter as much as he wanted to kill Aunt May, because he wanted to be responsible for like this origin story. Even though he was already Spider-Man, he had not suffered a loss. And then he kind of had that, you'll thank me later. And so he knows with great power comes great responsibility. And I think when he sent that glider, I think the plan the whole time was for him to kill Aunt May because he wanted this Peter. He wanted, with his ego, he wanted this Peter Parker to always have to remember him, which I think made him even worse of a villain in like the biggest of ways than he was the first time around. Like, how could he get any more menacing, any scarier, any more diabolical, any more evil? And then he somehow one-upped it with Tom Holland.
Right. Yeah, because I mean, I guess, yeah, because wasn't Green Goblin's like main thing, even in Tobey Maguire's, movies, it was to like try and hurt the people he was around. I mean, so I guess I could understand why he would aim for Aunt May.
And the way that it's just the way he did it this time around. If you go back and you watch the first movie and then you go back and watch No Way Home and you put them together, you're like, not only has he not learned his lesson at all, but he enjoyed the opportunity to, because now Tom Holland's Spider-Man will always remember Willem Dafoe. I mean, think about that. He jumped from one universe to the other and had a lasting effect now on two of the three Spider-Men, which is crazy.
Yeah.
Which makes him, just like in the comics, arguably the most dangerous and most evil villain in the history of the Rogues Gallery of Spider-Man. Bringing the Green Goblin from death to life has now put us in a place where I think he really arguably is the most terrifying villains in some 20 years later somehow.
Yeah, I agree.
So the question that some people had was, if you go to Andrew Garfield's movies and in The Amazing Spider-Man 2, which is the movie that I got to be in as an extra in the chase scene in the beginning with Paul Giamatti, that movie featured Electro. Now in the comics, Electro has this weird like lightning star face, and he's got this green and yellow costume. Well, they brought Jamie Foxx back to that and made that electricity make that weird mask that would not make sense in real life. They brought that like starfish electrifying mask to life when you saw the electricity go through him, and when he would ignite that and kind of like direct it towards Spider-Man. The question that some people had was, if this brought to this universe people that knew who Spider-Man was, how did he know? Because he didn't know. But the notion was that when he was attached to the power grid, that being attached to that, if he could attach himself to the internet and to everything else, like Ultron, that he would somehow have seen that Andrew Garfield was Peter Parker, aka Spider-Man. Do you buy that, or was that a glitch in writing?
I didn't even like think about that either. I haven't heard about that or anything. I mean, yeah, I could see how that could happen. I mean, like you said, like with his electoral abilities, like he could, see the internet and see like his pictures or whatnot, and just I could understand that.
So we have Electro, we know that we've seen. We know that we have Electro, we have Sandman, we have the Lizard, we have Green Goblin. And the Sandman story is kind of sad because he just wants to be with his daughter. When you're watching Spider-Man No Way Home, was there any villain that you felt bad for?
Definitely. I mean, like you said, Sandman, because he just wanted to go home. I mean, when Jamie Foxx said, like, when they took away his powers, he said, like, now I'm just a nobody. I mean, I kind of felt bad for that too. I could understand why. But, like, also, it gives you a lesson that, nobody is just, like, everyone's not a nobody. You have something powerful. But, yeah, definitely Sandman, because, like, I think he used that aggression, like, on all the Spider-Man because he just wanted to go home. So, and be with his family.
And when we look at Dr. Octopus, we see the resurrection of a character in Spider-Man 2, also with Tobey Maguire, that I think wasn't fully respected on screen. I don't feel like they showed the true extent of his powers. And back in the Sam Raimi Spider-Verse of those three movies, it was like he dealt with a character and killed him. And
Mhm.
these villains are not villains that should just be one and done movies. So we see Doc Ock come back, and he's the first one that we see. What did you think about Dr. Octopus the second time around, played by Alfred Molina? Because you saw him the first time, you saw him this time, and I can honestly say that his fighting skills, I think, got even better when he had a second chance at another Spider-Man.
Right, I agree because he was pretty like fast and with Tom in that scene and like capturing him and I think he definitely his strength got a lot better in that movie.
Who was your favorite of the almost Sinister Six? Because we didn't have six, we had five. But of them, of Doc Ock, Green Goblin, Lizard, Electro, and Sandman, favorite villain and least favorite when we got to see five of six on screen?
Ooh, that's a good one. I mean, definitely I would say favorite villain is Green Goblin because like he just his just the way he scares me, I feel like. Um uh Worst one, maybe probably the Lizard or Sandman. Just because like I mean Sandman I feel like they didn't um do too much with him in this movie, which is understandable because he actually wasn't in the movie. Like he wasn't there
Him and
physically.
the Lizard didn't actually film on screen, which was
Right. Yeah. So I mean they didn't have a big part and just I don't know, the lizard just like with the whole backstory with the lizard of how like, he was just trying the doctor was just trying to grow his arm back and, he turned into a lizard and he just wanted to stay that way because he thought that was better to just have two arms being a lizard and then than just being a human. Um but probably the lizard, like I said, just because I don't know. I just he wanted to turn everyone else into a lizard. Like what 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 was the main part in that?
Well, and it was, I think the thing about it was he didn't look like he had a reason to attack Tom Holland's Spider-Man. And he's just like, kind of like got a sense that things were going to go awry. And then when things did, and he's trying to cure them all, and the Green Goblin does what he does, he jumps out of the feast van, and he comes out, he crawls up the building, and he grabs Tom Holland's Peter Parker and he says, "I told you there would be consequences." And it's like, how did you go from like you didn't care to now you're mad and now you want to kill people? Like there was like
Right.
what pissed you off, which I guess I didn't understand.
Yeah.
I would
Yeah,
think
I
wouldn't he
agree.
just like run into the sewers and hope that people
No
forget that
one
he's
catches
there?
him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean his play in this really didn't make any sense. And they
Hmm.
didn't try to cure him. So
No.
initially. So
Hmm.
that was like an interesting piece of it. But when you watch this movie for the first time, and you and I got to go early on within the first like day or so, so we got to see the reaction of the people in the theater.
Right.
What was your biggest oh my gosh moment? And was there anything that didn't happen that you wish that it did?
Oh, that's a good question. The last question was that's a good question. I wish they did bring back Gwen and the other MJ and Toby's. That I thought that would be really interesting. But
Okay.
I like my biggest oh my gosh moment for the first time seeing it was definitely seeing Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man. I was expecting it. I knew about it, but I was expecting it, but it was just awesome to see how they put him into the movie. And my probably biggest oh my gosh moment and crying moment was when Andrew saved MJ. And that was very I cried at that scene.
I would say going back to the favorite villain that we saw on screen and least favorite, I would say my favorite was Green Goblin. Soft spot for Doc Ock because I like
Mhm.
his arc right now. And least favorite, I would have to say, is a Lizard because his anger made no sense. So
Right.
to go to my biggest oh my goodness moment, I had I had two because I'll count one A and one B. Is I was hoping that Tobey and Andrew were going to be in the movie, and I didn't want to get my hopes up because I didn't want to be let down. So I was just like, hey, before the movie, I took out a sheet of paper and I wrote down everything I wanted to happen, and then I put it in my pocket, and I was
Mhm.
like, here's all my predictions, and a bunch of them came true. There was a few that didn't. I would say the now that I'm thinking about stuff, I got gears working here, but
Mhm.
my favorite moment was Tobey and Andrew coming back
Mhm.
because I mean, you and I being a fan of Spider-Man and him being our favorite ever hero, seeing three of them on one movie is like it's like unthinkable. It's like impossible when we saw the first few movies.
Yeah, that's been a dream of mine ever since, just them being together. That was always been a dream of mine.
Well, the thing is it's like we take a world where it was a series that was rebooted again, and the world we live
Mhm.
in today, instead of just being like, oh yeah, this is like Toby never happened because Andrew's a story. Okay, Andrew never happened because there's Tom, and now they took all this like what maybe was a mistake, maybe they didn't do right, and they put it all together, and they made
Mhm.
this real movie. So I love that somehow like a mistake or bad ratings turned into greatness. And so I'm happy about that because I want to see all three. My other oh my goodness moment is because I am such a fan of Daredevil. And when that scene cuts and then you just see the cane get slammed down, I'm like, wait a minute. And then when they like back up and they show his red glasses and people went nuts and the guy behind me threw his popcorn and it was just like so he was like over here to me and he's like oh my god and he just threw it and I'm like where did it go like I feel bad of where it went but seeing that moment was a greatness. The thing that I wish that we saw was I wish we saw Venom meet Tom Holland,
Yes.
Spider-Man. The other thing that I wish that now I'm thinking about it because when the portal opened, right, it was
Mhm.
whoever knew he was Spider-Man,
Right.
right? And it didn't matter if they were dead or alive because it was at the point that they realized.
Mhm.
So I'm literally thinking of this for the first time while we're doing the show. Gwen Stacy could have come through with Andrew Garfield.
Right.
Could have saw Emma Stone come through as Gwen Stacy and find him because technically it was anybody. So she could have come through from his universe just like Electro and Lizard came through.
Right.
So there's a reality that she can still be alive now. And
Right.
I would have loved that to happen now that I'm thinking about that. But
Mhm.
in the moment, because I didn't think about this in the moment, in the moment, I wanted Venom to appear, which he did, but I wanted
Right.
him to have actual screen time with Spider-Man.
Right. Yeah, I agree. No, I know I've heard rumors that they were gonna have Emma Stone and MJ from Tobey's movies. They were gonna have them, but something happened or something. I don't know, but I heard rumors they were trying to, but it just never happened.
Well, and the world that we're in now is because recent comics in the 21st century created the character Spider-Gwen. And
Right.
Gwen Stacy actually becomes a spider person and in a another universe whatever and so the opportunity for Andrew to find now and the thing about Andrew Garfield's story in No Way Home is that it's so multi-layered that if you listen to everything he says, it sets up so many things you want to discover in standalone movies with him.
Right.
When he comes through the portal, he says, you know, I want to make sure because I wrote it down. I want to make sure that I don't miss the exact thing that he said. So when he spoke of this, he had said multidimensional reality, matter displacement, string theory. It's all real. So he had been studying how to get to another universe. And I think he was doing that to try and find Gwen again.
Oh my gosh, I didn't even think about that.
So I think when he returns to his universe, I think he is going to use what he's learned and figure. And he also said magic's real here too. So he might have a Doctor Strange or someone of that nature. And I think because of him, there's no mistakes in Marvel. And multidimensional reality, matter displacement, string theory, I think he's been studying how to get her back, how to either go back in time or to go to a different universe. And I think when he goes back to his time, he's going to use the fact that he knows that it's real, go back to what he's been studying, and he's going to try and find a way to get Gwen back.
Wow. I really do like that theory.
And not only really that, do. So he may try to get Gwen back, and he may realize that it may be a different Gwen. But I think he's going to try to do it. And the other thing about his story, about Andrew's story, is that his Spider-Man is tortured.
Right.
He loses Gwen. And he says, you know, Gwen loses Uncle Ben, and he makes the statement of, you know, he said, I got angry. I got bitter. And I stopped pulling my punches. I want to go see the story, as dark as it may be, of a Spider-Man who uses his power without being responsible.
Right.
And I want to know, did he kill someone? Who did he put in the hospital? Who did he paralyze? I want to see him search for Gwen. I want to see him bring what he learned and try to travel himself. I want to see him ask Tobey for his help. And I want to see the world also of the tortured Spider-Man who doesn't pull his punches.
Yeah.
Andrew Garfield, coming out of this movie, he's the one I want to see next.
That's exactly what I was thinking. I know a lot of fans were saying they do want a TASM 3. And I mean, even when he said, like, when they were talking about who they fought with, like all the three Spider-Men were saying like who they fought, and he's like, oh, I've never fought an alien before. So many people want him, they want to see the Venom, and like Venom Andrew Garfield. And I think that's how it's gonna maybe tie into Morbius, maybe. And because like I said, I checked the casting of Morbius a while ago, back in January, and I saw Andrew Garfield in Morbius as Spider-Man / Peter Parker, and I just checked recently that he wasn't on there now. So I'm kind of curious if they're maybe trying to surprise people again.
And remember, in the Morbius trailer, Morbius walks by a picture of Spider-Man, and what is spray painted on him? Murderer.
Right.
Which would mean that is Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man.
Right, and that's his dark story. Yeah.
That we live in a world where the hero of New York City became the villain, right, which has now left the world to the Morbiuses and the Vultures, and who in a world where your hero becomes the villain and blurs the line, that is a perfect world for Venom and for Morbius. And reminding that Morbius, also in the preview, when he grabs the guy, he says, "Who are you?" He says, "I am Venom." And the guy gets
Right.
scared and thinks that he is. So I think Morbius has already shown us Andrew Garfield and Tom Hardy's Venom is his universe.
Right.
A universe where there are no heroes, but only anti-heroes and blurred lines.
Right. I'm really excited to see where this goes.
And the thing that I find crazy is when I got to be a part of TASM 2 and I
Mhm.
got to be in that movie, being a part of any Spider-Man anything is a dream come true. Outside of
Oh
playing
yeah.
or writing it, or both,
Right.
to be in the movie, and that's my first movie I've ever been in, is insanity. And yet, and that, not and yet, but I come off that movie and people regard that as the worst Spider-Man movie ever made. And I'm like,
Really?
of course, of course people are going to say this because they thought that Peter was too chill. He was too confident. He wasn't nerdy. He was like too he was too positive and
Right.
he believed in himself. And so he wasn't like the kid who thought he was a nobody. And so in this amazing Spider-Man, when I came off of being in the movie, I'm like, I'm not going to let anybody take anything away from me. Like I got to be in the movie.
Right.
The irony is that people say Tobey, Tom, Andrew, Tom, Tobey, Andrew, but Andrew's always third. And they
Right.
joke about it when they're Peter 1, Peter 2, and then he goes Peter 3. And
Yeah.
so in that crazy world that we live in, think about how insane it is that all these people come to the theaters. They want to see Andrew Garfield, who they allegedly didn't like. They
Right.
want to see Tobey Maguire, who allegedly Spider-Man 3 was awful.
Right.
So you hated it, but now you needed to see it. And the Spider-Man that everybody wrote off as a mistake, and let's just pretend it didn't happen. And I think it actually, like emotionally, was an attack on Andrew Garfield because he's loved this character and he wanted to play Spider-Man.
Right.
Think about how the world had two Andrew Garfield movies and they said, throw them in the trash, they're garbage.
Yeah.
And now after Spider-Man No Way Home, people are begging for the Spider-Man that stole the show, which was Andrew Garfield. How the times have changed. It's like, check your tweets, folks. Go back in time and see what you said because everybody loves Andrew Garfield now. And I find it amazing, truly, pun intended, that you wanted to forget him and now you're begging for him to stay.
Right. Well, I can tell you I'll say all the women that are Marvel fans, the reason why they are probably begging for Andrew Garfield is because they love Andrew Garfield. Because maybe I am one of those girls where I personally love Andrew Garfield. He is definitely my man crush. So yeah, that's another reason why I think people are like girls are begging for Andrew Garfield to come back as well. Because, some girls like got into Marvel because of these men that are playing these roles.
Yeah, and I just find it interesting that you want to write him off, and now he has the story that no other Spider-Man can tell about going dark. He has this tortured life, and that, essentially when he was pulled into this universe, he could have been in that life forever. And these Spider-Man seem to be the ones that changed him.
Yeah.
He always wanted brothers.
Mm-hmm.
Told him he loved them.
Right.
He cried when he said, I got bitter. Like, you felt his pain to the point where now you want to see what it looked like.
Right.
And you want to see Gwen. And you want to see that moment where she either appears again or swings back into his life.
Right.
And what a world where Spider-Gwen may have to save Spider-Man.
Right.
And maybe this time he's the one falling and she's the one that grabs him in the nick of time.
Right.
And I just feel like everybody wants to see that love story now.
Oh, I do. I want to see the love story again. I loved it.
So we look upon this world that we have and everything that's coming. Morbius has been moved 757 times. We are here doing the show and coming up in just a short amount of time. Allegedly, we're going to see
Mhm.
Morbius. I want to remind people that he is set to come out on April 1st, which is April
Right.
Fool's Day. And if Marvel and Sony do any type of just kidding, I'm going to lose my mind.
Yeah, I'll probably lose my mind too.
But Morbius, based on what we were talking about in the previews, Andrew Garfield's world, he's a murderer.
Right.
Venom, because he mentioned
Right.
I am Venom. Vulture somehow got through from Tom Holland's universe and got into this one. And
Right.
on top of all of that, Blade was announced for phase 5 before they started phase 4. He just showed up at the end of the Eternals, and Blade is bitten by Morbius. So, in a fight where he tries to help Spider-Man.
Oh.
So the world. So as much as people might have thought Morbius was a nobody,
Hmm.
he may be the movie to connect Tom Hardy's Venom, Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man, Michael Keaton's Vulture, Jared Leto's Morbius,
Hmm.
and Mahershala Ali's Blade.
Right. Crazy.
And it's weird how Sony's like announcing him as like the next like Marvel, like the next like big Marvel name. Like
Yeah.
they're playing this up like the next one to steal the show is Morbius. So
Right.
there's a lot of things. And why did this movie keep moving? And now that it's after Blade was introduced and it's after No Way Home, and it makes more sense with Vulture and it makes sense with the murderer and it makes sense with I Am Venom because Venom 2 came out and it was supposed to come out before Venom 2.
Right.
I'm very curious as to what this movie looked like before and what it looks like now, and how much did they have to change? Because if they do this right, Morbius could actually become one of the next great Marvel movies not made by Marvel.
Hmm. Yeah.
And it makes you
I,
want to see this vampire more now.
right. I mean, I
So,
was interested just from hearing that Andrew Garfield was in it. So,
so like, hey, Andrew Garfield is going to be in the next Cheetos commercial. I'm watching it.
okay.
I'm there.
Okay. I'll be there.
So, in the grand scheme of things, in Spider-Man: No Way Home, it also sets up Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness.
Right.
I told you before the movie started, and I told your mom
Hmm.
because we're all family here. So when we
Right.
saw it the second time, we went together and
Hmm.
we sat right there in like the third row. And so shout out to Lori. We're sitting there, and I said to her before the movie started, and then she said it to you. I said, now that we're watching this again, I looked at her and I went, it's not the Doctor Strange in this entire movie is not the Doctor Strange that we know. And she
Right.
went, really? And I went, watch. The movie ended. She looked at me and she goes, I think you're right. I don't think it is. She goes, I caught a bunch of things, and I said, I'm telling you right now, the Doctor Strange in Spider-Man No Way Home is not the Doctor Strange that we know.
Yeah. Because he wouldn't do like, I don't think he would put so much risk to, what everything he did in No Way Home.
Him changing the world, the universe, the multiverse
Hmm.
for a teenager,
Right.
it doesn't make sense, especially with everything that they've been through together. It doesn't make
Hmm.
sense that he would be that irresponsible.
Right.
He wouldn't do it for Peter. He would say to Peter, hey, we all lost something. You're going to have to deal with it.
Right.
He's more serious. He knows the obstacle set in front of him, and he knows the risk.
Hmm.
And he has the ego. But even the way he winked at him and brought him down the stairs and talked to him. And then he's like, okay, this person can know, and okay, that person can know. I think that and also at the end of Spider-Man, why do we see the first ever trailer for Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness? First scene in the trailer, we're looking at a watch, and through the reflection of the watch, we see this Doctor Strange wake up and look scared.
Right.
I think that the Doctor Strange that we see in the reflection of that clock is a metaphor that he's trapped in time, and that maybe the time stone was used against him or something. I think the Doctor Strange we see reflected in that clock is the Doctor Strange that we know, who has been trapped in some type of prison away from the world that we know, and that one we see in the reflection of the clock is the real Doctor Strange, who was trapped during the entire No Way Home movie.
Right. That's interesting.
And I think the What If series, I mean, they said, well, maybe he's going to be no, he's definitely in it, because when he puts his hands out and those like snake, eel, whatever they are, jump out of there, that's a direct connection to What If. So I believe that the What If Doctor Strange, I believe that now that Doctor Strange knows that people that are dead can be alive.
Right.
I think that Doctor Strange in Spider-Man No Way Home was trying to change his timeline to where he could be with his love interest, arguably. And that maybe the Doctor Strange that we saw there was the What If Doctor Strange that turned bad. But it's not the one that we know. And I think there's a reason why we see his love interest getting married and him standing in the audience.
Right.
I think in that moment he went, wait, I can go back. I can fix this. So I think that he cast the spell being opportunistic, knowing that he needed worlds to collide so that he could use it to his advantage.
Yeah.
And remember, Doctor Strange broke it. The female Loki in Loki broke it. And the Scarlet Witch with the Darkhold broke it.
Right.
And Thanos' snap also could have created rifts. So there's 4 things that could have opened the multiverse. And we're kind of prone to thinking about one at a time, not understanding the fact that even if Doctor Strange closed the portals, it doesn't mean that Loki didn't reopen them 5 minutes later.
Right.
Because somewhere, some way, all of these things happen, and arguably 3 of the 4 besides Thanos' snap could have all happened at the same time, before, after, during. So that could be how the Vulture crept through. Because we only needed one of them to mess up the multiverse. We had more than one.
Right.
So who do you think's most irresponsible? Lady Loki, Doctor Strange, Thanos, or Scarlet Witch?
So I haven't finished the Loki series. I still need to do that. So I don't really know too much about Lady Loki. I just know of her, but I don't know like specifically what she's done.
I didn't tell you what she did, but it's not good.
Yeah. So I think honestly, maybe Doctor Strange, because he did so many like different Peter like types of worlds. Like he did so many spells of that, and just like you could tell how much it messed up like the world, like seeing the little cracks and No Way Home, and just like I truly think the Doctor Strange one definitely messed it up.
And how does he get trapped the entire time? He's Doctor Strange.
Right.
Maybe he wanted to look trapped.
Right.
There's a lot more but I'm telling you, that is not, and I said that well before the movie came out. I said, that's not Doctor Strange.
Right.
Not the one we know.
Right.
So, final note here. As we look at when the rifts were opening by the Statue of Liberty, and we saw the silhouettes, we saw potentially Madam Web.
Right.
We saw Rhino in his original rubber costume. We saw Mysterio, maybe Miles
Right.
Morales, maybe Gwen Stacy or Black Cat. We saw Scorpion.
Mm-hmm.
So, of the ones we think we saw in the clouds,
Mm-hmm.
who do you want to see the most?
Oh, Spider-Gwen for sure. I just want to see her story. I do. Like, I know like they had, this multiverse, like the Spider-Man, the comic version one. I just like that definitely got me more interested in Spider-Gwen, and I do want to see it in like real like Spider-Gwen, and I want Emma Stone definitely to play. I truly do. I personally love her as Gwen Stacy, so I that's who I would definitely look forward to.
Yeah, she was incredible. And when Into the Spider Verse came out, I said, this is Sony's way of taking a very complex thing, dumbing it down. Because it's a cartoon, kids will see it, adults will see it, and they'll be more open to the crazy concept of the Spider Verse, which is very confusing because it's a cartoon. And if it works, mark my words, they'll make it a live action.
Right.
It worked. Then we got three Spider-Men. And in this Spider-Verse, which is getting a second movie, cartoon-wise, Spider-Gwen and Miles Morales are very much alive.
Right.
So I think they did it as a cartoon to test it and see if people would buy into it. And when they realized people understood it, then they jumped into the Spider-Verse. And now we're fully into the Spider-Verse, which means that it's coming. And if you go back to Spider-Man Homecoming,
Mm-hmm.
Tom Holland's Peter Parker meets this criminal guy
Mm-hmm.
and who's played by Danny Glover. And
Right.
when he meets him, that character becomes the Prowler in the comics. And he says on the phone, I'm sorry, Miles, I'm not going to be able to make it. So
Right.
Miles has been alive.
Right.
And then again, twice out of three movies of Tom Holland's Homecoming and No Way Home, in both of those movies, there was the mention of Miles Morales when Andrew Garfield was there and Electro says, man, I was hoping you'd be black.
Yeah.
And he said, well, I'm sure there's one somewhere.
Yeah.
So you got a cartoon with one edition, you got a cartoon about to have another edition, and you have two representations of it in the MCU. Miles is on his way, and I think
Yeah.
Spider-Gwen is too.
Oh yeah, for sure. I like when Jamie Foxx mentioned that in No Way Home, I was like, oh, is this an introduction?
So it's on its way. But anything that we didn't, as a final note, anything that we didn't cover from what you're hoping for
Mhm.
that you want to make note of as we see what will happen next with Spider-Man.
I just I want the Spider Verse to grow. Just I want to see a live action of Miles, a live action of Gwen, Spider Gwen. Um, I want to see Andrew Garfield's Spider Man like dark error, and like see maybe if he does like fight Venom, or like in all the other Tobey movies. I mean, I'm just really excited. I want to see what Marvel does with the whole Spider Verse, because I think if they like brought it, I think they could make it really interesting.
And let's take everything we said about Andrew Garfield, Spider-Man, and the darkness and all of this, and how he looks like he's in the Morbius thing with the murderer thing, and Morbius obviously he talks about Venom. Put that all together, and let's go even deeper into this. The Venom symbiote
Mm-hmm.
attaches and enhances who you are and likes to prey upon your anger, your
Mm-hmm.
vulnerability, your rage, and your pain. Which
Right.
Spider-Man is going through the most of that?
Right.
So
Andrew.
to connect to Andrew Garfield may make him the murderer.
Right.
Stopped pulling his punches, got bitter, got rageful. What a perfect time for Venom to show up.
Right. Right.
So may the story unfold the way that it will. With that being said, as I'm sitting here on Superpowered Pop, I'm having Ma and Pa's popcorn because you can't talk about pop without the pop here. And I want to let everybody know that wherever you are, in any one of the 50 states, if you go to Ma and Pa's popcorn.com, you can order and have it delivered to your doorstep in any one of the states. So, yes, they're based in Syracuse, in the Syracuse area on 201 Old 7th North Street in Liverpool. But you can have it at your door today at maandpazpopcorn.com. And I'm having blue raspberry tonight. So, with that being said, I got to have one of the colors of the spider suit. Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you to you, Larissa, and to the great opportunity that we had to officially welcome you to the Superpowered Pop family. I'm looking forward for so much to come, and Morbius better come out on April 1st. I'm going to lose my mind.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm definitely looking forward to what we're going to talk about in the future. I'm so excited.
Well, welcome to the family. Welcome to our expanded multiverse.
I'm so excited. Thank you.
Absolutely. And we'll talk soon. For everybody, pop.com, as well as social media on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Superpowered Pop. We'll talk with you soon. Thank you so much for tuning in.